Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, December 28th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Cotton Bowl game against Missouri is tomorrow. The game against Michigan in 338 days. With that Cotton Bowl game right on deck, suddenly, all of a sudden, it feels like we just got here and now the game's tomorrow. This is one of those weird short bowl weeks. Kevin Noon, we got to talk on Wednesday to the Ohio State offensive coordinator Brian Hartline, quarterback Devin Brown, running back TreVeyon Henderson, wide receiver Emeka Egbuka and Xavier Johnson, tight end Cade Stover. So talking about the Buckeye offense today, and there's some interesting stuff going on at a whole lot of those different position groups for this Cotton Bowl game. Let's start at quarterback. That's kind of where we're sort of contractually obligated to start this whole thing. We got an extended chance to just talk to Devin Brown. He's in a very different position now than the last time we talked to him. What did you learn talking to Devin Brown?
Yeah, he's really excited about the game, but he told us that he's not nervous whatsoever. I mean, even his family's like, how can you not be nervous? So, thanks for the support, parents. But he's, been pretty calm and collective about this, but understands that it's a big opportunity. Everybody's shown him a lot of support, feels that the team is really rallied around him in this opportunity, and he knows that there are going to be a lot of eyes on him, but he's been playing tackle football as he said since he was like 7 years old, and this is it's still the same game, but it's going to be in a bigger stadium in front of a larger crowd, and I think that's the right message. And I'm sure there are going to be some detractors out there that are going to be like, well, you need to understand just how important this is, because Buckeye fans live and die with this. I mean, he understands all of that, but he's also showing that he's not letting the enormity of the situation just completely consume him.
Well, and this is a little bit different than someone like, for example, Brock Glenn from Florida State having to go in and play in the ACC championship game. Devin Brown's, first of all, got a whole extra year in the system, so he's not brand new. He's also been one play away from starting most of the year when he was healthy and was in a quarterback battle all year. So this is not going from 0 to 60 for him.
No, not at all. I mean, he attempted 22 passes this season, played in 5 games. He was the guy that they were using as the short yardage goal line guy. So, I mean, he was coming in meaningful moments, but it's different from being a spot guy and being the guy. And he knows that Lincoln Kienholz is there pushing him, but he also knows that this is his opportunity to really show what he's capable of. Go out and make a mistake, and you don't want to make any mistakes, but you go out and make a mistake, you're not going to get pulled. You're not going to have a short hook. I'm sure he certainly would like to have the security blanket of having Marvin Harrison Jr., who has shown in postseason games that he can be quite the weapon. That does not appear to be the case that he will be playing in this game, but Emeka Egbuka, Carnell, Tate, there are going to be a lot of guys that are going to be able to be around him, and I think that it's going to be a good showing from him. Now, anybody who's expecting him to go out there and be like 23 or 25, I think you're probably setting too high of a bar. But I think that Ohio State is going to have a game plan in place that is going to be able to show off what he can do. And of course, we're going to have the revisionists who are going to say, if he comes out and does well, we could have had this all season.
And I think this is, whether this is incredible or whether this is terrible or whether this is somewhere in the middle, I think this has to sort of stand on its own. Ryan Day is not starting someone who is clearly inferior to someone else, so he's not going to sacrifice the season just to prove a point or whatever. But I think Devin Brown is in a position where he's set up. He's got the experience. He's been in the system for a couple of years. He's got a lot of skill talent around him. Like you said, no Marvin Harrison, but he's going to have Emeka Egbuka. He's going to have Carnell Tate. He's going to have Brandon Inniss and Jaden Ballard and whoever else in that wide receiver room, and Xavier Johnson. That's a deep and talented wide receiver room. So you've got some talent there, and you've got also TreVeyon Henderson. The best security for a quarterback is a good running game, and you should have TreVeyon Henderson. He's said he's planning to play. His status for 2024 still up in the air, but he's definitely going to be playing in this game. and you would expect him to get 15 carries, 18 carries, something like that. And he's shown himself to be a real difference maker for this team. So there's no reason to think he wouldn't be a difference maker for this team again on Friday.
And that's the thing. A running game is the best friend of a new quarterback. You can really take a lot of pressure off there. Do we see Ohio State with a more mobile quarterback in Devin Brown? Do we see some zone read and things of that nature? Maybe, probably, likely. But Ohio State's run game was kind of hit and miss this year at times, and whether or not it was they weren't going to it enough or the run blocking wasn't there or whatever, we certainly saw a stretch with TreVeyon Henderson where he really started to turn it on and regained a lot of the form that he had as a true freshman, but it was a different style of running. He was more physical. He was a little bit more decisive, and not as much dancing around trying to make every play perfect. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to wait another half beat to see if this is there. Oh, it's not. No gain. He was doing things that we've not seen him do in his career, and hopefully he's going to be able to kind of pick up off of that and be able to showcase that against Missouri.
And someone else who may have an opportunity to showcase what they can do against Missouri is Dallan Hayden. He has been sort of perpetually on the cusp of being the next guy, and now, by virtue of the attrition in the running back room, he pretty much has to be the next guy, because the scholarship running backs on the roster for this Cotton Bowl for Ohio State are TreVeyon Henderson, Dallan Hayden, end of list. And you figure you'll get a few carries for Xavier Johnson, maybe a few carries for Emeka Egbuka. You got walk-on T.C. Caffey, but it feels like, boy, if Dallan Hayden doesn't get carries in this game, I don't know when Dallan Hayden's going to get carries. This is a real opportunity for him as well to show that with all these other guys gone, and James Peoples, the very talented running back, on the way in, and Sam Williams-Dixon on the way in, and do they look in the portal for someone or whatever, this is an opportunity for Dallan Hayden to potentially make his mark again and sort of show what he can do heading into 2024.
Right, exactly. And you hit the nail on the head where if Dallan Hayden can't find carries in this game, you just kind of have to wonder what is up. So I expect there to be opportunity. I think that Xavier Johnson in his final game, they are going to find ways to put the ball in his hands one way or the other, whether it's via the run or via the catch. But Dallan Hayden is going to need to be there because TreVeyon Henderson is not a 35 carry type of back. There are not many of those backs. Now, on the flip side, if you look at Missouri, its back can be a guy that runs in the 30s. He had a couple of games where he had 30-plus carries. But TreVeyon Henderson is probably at his best in the low 20s, in my opinion. We're going to see, I'm sure we're going to see some Devin Brown run, whether it's a design quarterback run, whether it's part of the option that he has out there, between run pass, or just maybe protection breaking down and having to scramble. So just based on the amount of carries that you expect Ohio State's going to need to have in this game to be successful, they're not all going to come from TreVeyon Henderson. So that means that by process of elimination, Dallan Hayden has to be involved.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna get to see more of him than you have in the last few weeks for sure. And just in case you're wondering, this game would not count. I think he's only played in 3 games, but even if he's at 4, the bowl game does not count in terms of a red shirt, so he can take this as a red shirt year regardless. So he maintains that year of eligibility moving forward. So I know that was something we've gotten questions about at various times. That's just regular season games for the 4-game maximum for the red shirt. So we've talked a little bit about the wide receivers already, but no Marvin Harrison, unless Marvin Harrison has not said that directly, but everything else and everyone else has basically said that no Marvin Harrison. So we're going to just say no Marvin Harrison. But you do have Emeka Egbuka, so that's a big deal. You've got Xavier Johnson, so that's a big deal. But you got no Marvin Harrison, you get no Julian Fleming, who of course has transferred to Nebraska. That means you may get the end of Marvin Harrison's Ohio State career may look a lot like the first year of Marvin Harrison's career for Carnell Tate. Because remember, you got to remember the Rose Bowl end of the 2021 season. No Chris Olave, no Garrett Wilson. That meant things opened up for Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison to really get a chance to make their mark in the Rose Bowl game. And Marvin Harrison caught 3 touchdowns, and the rest was history. This week, for sure, Carnell Tate is going to be one of those guys who gets an opportunity. who else gets an opportunity? It's Brandon Inniss getting more run. Maybe he's, sort of the next guy in that list. But for sure, Carnell Tate, this feels like a real opportunity, in the same way that we've talked about some other guys potentially, for Devin Brown, for Dallan Hayden, sort of kickstarting things for the 2024 season a little early. This feels like a real opportunity for Carnell Tate to kind of be one of those people that, even the people just sort of like thumbing through magazines, the college football magazines over the summer are looking for, like, oh yeah, Carnell Tate, I remember him. He had that big game in the Cotton Bowl. I bet he's going to be really good this year.
And that's a thing going against this Missouri defense, because they're down a corner. Their number one corner is still there, and he's fantastic. 4 interceptions, just, a real solid player, all SEC level type of player. But they're down their other corner, who played 9 games this season, so this isn't a new phenomenon, but Ohio State is going to have more options out there than just Emeka, because we've seen it before. When you are short on options, you bracket the number one, and then let everybody else go out there and just kind of do their thing and hope to profit from that. So if Carnell Tate is able to step into that role, or maybe even Brandon Inniss, who's had a month to work with the offense more specifically than just being a true freshman who came in over the summer, I think that's going to be very important. But trends say that this could really be a Carnell Tate kind of game, and I'm not one to bet against trends.
Yeah, I think this is, you talk to enough guys around the program about him, and just even going back to when he was in high school, that he came in as part of a very talented wide receiver class: Bryson Rogers, Noah Rogers, Brandon Inniss, and Carnell Tate. And even when he was in high school, you kind of had people whispering to you, like, yeah, Carnell Tate is like the real deal. Even among this class of very talented players, Carnell Tate is the real deal. That's certainly what it has looked like throughout the year. Heading into this year and heading into this Cotton Bowl, we'll see if he can take that next step on Friday night. Someone else taking the last step of their college career on Friday night will be Cade Stover. He is definitely turning pro after this year. There was some possibility he might not. The way he talked on Wednesday, this is very much a final chapter for him. And with it being a final chapter, man, oh man, is he going to do his very best to play. He is not 100%. He's nowhere near 100%. But he is going to do everything he possibly can, just as you would sort of expect from Cade Stover, to play in this Cotton Bowl game on Friday for however long he can.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously you don't want to set yourself back in the future by injuring yourself in this game, but if there's a guy that you would sit there and say, this guy would give his left foot to get this last win, I think Cade Stover is kind of one of those guys. So we don't know how much of an impact he's going to be able to have. Is he out there for the coin toss and a series? Is he out there for a quarter? Is he out there for the entire game? I think, we're just going to have to kind of wing it and see where that goes. But, what does that mean in terms of other players? Could this be the Jelani Thurman breakout game? We talk about Carnell Tate. Could this open up an opportunity for Jelani Thurman, especially in the pass-catching situations? Because it's all well and good to sit there and have Patrick Gurd as kind of your fullback, the only Gurd that I like, as your fullback, but you need to have, I think, kind of quote-unquote a skilled tight end out there that's really going to be kind of your pass catcher as well in Thurman. But, not to get away from the Stover point, I think Stover's going to try and leave it all on the field and just know that if he gets taken out of the game at any point, it's probably going to be against his will.
Yeah, and whenever he does come out of the game, because he said he recognizes he's not going to be able to play the full game. So, the question is just sort of where does he fall between out there for the coin toss and playing 70 snaps on offense. When he does come out, this is obviously an opportunity for G. Scott to take that next step in his whole progression, because he seems like he is likely to be the next guy up, and certainly would be tight end number one, at least at the moment. If whenever Stover's not able to be out there. This is also a real opportunity. You've got guys like Patrick Gurd to walk on. This is also a real opportunity. I don't know. Jelani Thurman is another one of those guys where you keep hearing like, oh yeah, he is that dude, in the same way that you're sort of hearing that about Carnell Tate. I don't know if he's quite there yet to be ready to take on the full responsibilities, but this might be an opportunity to sort of get, you saw, 2 catches at the end of the Michigan State game and maybe 1 at the end of the Minnesota game or something like that. You might have an opportunity to see him just get a couple, get a little bit of action, maybe get a catch or two, and sort of take the next step. But whether it's him, whether it's G. Scott, or whether it's someone else in that tight end room, this is another real opportunity for them to, with Joe Royer now gone.
Right.
You know, they're a little thin in that tight end room as well. Bennett Christian not eligible this year, so that list is sort of starting to shrink a little bit. There's some real opportunities for some of those guys as well.
Right, and that's what this is really about, because it's an interesting intersection of a meaningless exhibition, wanting to win the game, getting ready for the next season. You know, we know that there is not a game on the back end of this for Ohio State. Win the game and you don't suddenly come up through the losers bracket to be able to play your way into the college football playoff. But it's very important to win this game. It's very important to end the season on a win, to be able to beat a top 10 opponent in the national rankings, an SEC opponent, even if it's still kind of weird to say that Missouri is an SEC team. So, you know, I'm a strong believer of getting some opportunities out there for the young guys if you can do it within the framework of going out and winning the game, because if not, why not just call this a spring practice and get on with it, other than the fact it's not spring.
Yeah, it's definitely not spring. Feels a little like spring outside right now, at least in Dallas. I did look, and of course, as we are contractually obligated to have, is the case every year, it is warmer in Columbus than it is in our bowl destination. Somehow this happens every year, no matter where we go, no matter how much further south we are. It always seems to be warmer in Columbus this week than it is wherever we are, but that's okay. We are already almost to the end of bowl week, even though it feels like we just got here. The game against, not the game, but a game, the Cotton Bowl game against Missouri is tomorrow. We will be there covering that whole thing for you. We will have our usual, all sorts of live coverage. We'll have all sorts of tape shows. We've got our live post-game show. We may try and do something live from the stadium. We're sort of still trying to figure out some logistics on that. We're going to do everything we can to bring you as much coverage as we can, of course, at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. So make sure you're subscribed to both of those places. Go to the BuckeyeHuddle.com and you get access to the full coverage of the team from Tony, Kevin, and I. Get access to recruiting coverage from Mark, X's and O's coverage from Ross, Devin, and Justin, Mickey. Fantastic smart football friends who make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever we do anything live, post any new interviews, any of that kind of stuff. We'll be talking to Ryan Day and Eli Drinkwitz on Thursday, a little later on today. And then, of course, game coverage on Friday. So lots of exciting stuff ahead, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com and, of course, at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.